Hello, welcome back to Reality Check with Arvind Swaminathan. Ram Ramji, hi. Very odd state of affairs right now. Congratulations to Mr. Om Birla being re-elected for a second time as Speaker of Lok Sabha. Quite a guy. And you need somebody strong to be able to look after this opposition. Why? The disturbance is created even in Parliament. Tells us one thing, that the opposition parties are not interested in working for the nation. They're trying to make sure that no work gets done, which is not what an opposition party is supposed to be doing. But when you get, how shall I put it, people who know absolutely nothing and want to do even less, except loot the country, what can you expect? Now, a whole lot of things have emerged from this. You see, what was Mr. Rahul Gandhi trying to do during that election campaign? Apart from trying to spread this lie that Mr. Modi was trying to change the constitution, which is a total lie. Because it is Indira Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi who made about 30 changes in the constitution. In fact, they even changed one of the laws, Shabano case for instance, to ensure that the changes made stand. The laws they have made totally disregard the constitution, and they even disregard the fact that India is a democracy. Now, democracy means for the majority of the people, by the majority of the people, not in favor of the minority and kicking the majority. That is not democracy. We're going back to Iran of maybe 1,000 years ago, which was a Parsi country. They let in a few Muslims. And remember, within 30 years, every Parsi was either driven out of Iran, forcefully converted, or murdered. No other way. And a lot of them came to India. And those families are still here. Doing quite well, thank you. Now, what is Mr. Rahul Gandhi except what you call a Mir Jafar or a Jaychand? I can't understand how is he still a member of parliament. Okay, he was elected, but why? If we go by the constitution, let's see what it says. Article 102, I think subsection D. A person may be disqualified as a member of either House of Parliament if he is not a citizen of India or who has voluntarily accepted the citizenship of a foreign country or is under any acknowledgement or allegiance or adherence to a foreign state. Now, on at least two of these, Mr. Rahul Gandhi is definitely suspect. One, in 2006, in a return filed in the UK to Her Majesty's government, I think to do with income tax, Rahul Gandhi was a director and for a while also the company secretary for a company known as Backops, which is registered first in India and then in the UK, where he claimed that he was a British citizen. Now, if he was a British citizen in 2006, how was he a member of parliament in India from 2004? When did he give up British citizenship? We need to know that. Now we come to this other thing. He's under any acknowledgement or obligation or adherence to a foreign state. Remember 2008, Beijing, during the Olympics? He signed an agreement on behalf of the Congress Party of India with the Communist Party of China. What was in that agreement? Why have we never been allowed to see that? What is in that agreement? And you look at what he has been doing. Bharat Jodo Yatra. Isn't that Chow Enlai and Mao Zedong's long march all over China? Now he keeps showing this constitution he claims. Mao's Red Book being waved at us. Now he keeps telling us about the constitution. Has he ever read it? Has he ever looked inside? Or maybe he can't read. If he can read, maybe he should look at Article 102. He wants to change that too, does he? Anybody here can sign any agreement anywhere else. He can owe allegiance to China and yet be a member of parliament or a minister here. What kind of nonsense is that? Any other part of the world, he'd have been hanged in public. It's known as high treason. What is he doing as a member of parliament? Hoping for the reins of this country as Prime Minister. Come on, let's get real. I mean, it beggars belief. How does he do this? How does he get away with it? Now, what was he trying to do during that more of his campaign? He was going to waive off all farm loans. And then he was going to waive off all education loans. Whose money was it? Your money, my money. The entire banking system would have collapsed. And who would have taken it over? Would you believe the Rothschilds? Where do they come in? Remember Nalanda University, Manmohan Singh's government, I think 2008 or 9. Amartya Sen was given a carte blanche to do anything possible to bring back Nalanda, the glory of Nalanda University. Well, Amartya Sen's wife, before she became Mrs. Amartya Sen, was Emma Georgina Rothschild. Connection is clear. Sonia Gandhi was the co-chairperson of George Soros's panel or board in 1994. You know, the one to destabilize Asian countries and put in place governments which were much more pliable and much more amenable to the US government. The result was 10 years of UPA rule. So you see, this man has a whole lot of dubious connections. Why is he even allowed here? If he is an overseas citizen of India, he is only permitted to come in and go out. He is not permitted to have any job in this country, private sector or public sector. He certainly cannot be a member of parliament. That is no. So why is he and how is he? This has to be looked at now, not as he keeps saying, when the time comes. Or at the appropriate time. The appropriate time is now. How many other prison sentences has he to deal with? Plus, how many offences is he out on bail for? National Herald for one. I mean, how do these people get away with it? These are the same British Raj laws where the British officer could not be prosecuted in this country. And such people think they are above the law. just like the British were. Now this has to change. And people like Mr. Rahul Gandhi had better be where they belong. And right now, from what everything points is, they should be behind bars. Permanently. I've also said many times that this Congress government has flouted the Constitution, stomped on it. And he is talking about saving the Constitution and waving that little red book at us. Let's see. 1956, his great-grandfather Nehru, thanks to his cheating or looting the office of the Prime Minister, he had no business being the Prime Minister. He should have been Sardar Patel. He brought in this law, the Hindu Civil Code. When the Constitution, Article 44 says, very plainly and clearly, a uniform civil code must be brought in for the benefit of the citizens of India in all the territories of India. Why do we have a Hindu civil code instead of a uniform civil code? All Mr. Modi needs to do is go into Parliament, bring up this bill and change the heading from a Hindu civil code to either uniform civil code or Indian civil code, which means anybody who is a citizen of India comes under that civil code. That's all he needs to do. That corrects a very, very harmful wrong. Because I think you know what I said about this in the past. That all it has done is the Muslim population has multiplied from 1 to 10. All the other communities have multiplied 1:3. 1 in 1947, 3 today. Except Muslims, 1 in 1947, 10, between 10 and 12 today. And they brought in 60 or 65 million Bangladeshis to swell their numbers. Now it's beginning to show when 95% of them vote, and these guys get so many seats. It shows because they're not all in one place. They're all spread out in every state. Now these folk, having got to more than 15% of the population, is when they start making very dopey demands. Hijab, Halal certification, a whole lot of other things. Where you have a Muslim dominated area, you mustn't have Hindu processions there. Why? If a Hindu procession passes a mosque, they get stoned from the mosque. I mean, is this what you call a minority under threat? These are a frightened community? And Mr. Rahul Gandhi gets folk like those in the American government to say, no, you mustn't, you must look after these minorities. You're giving them a hard time. No. It's that minority that's giving the rest of us a hard time. They're dragging us back. Look, we don't want to learn about Islam. You want to teach Islam, you're so keen on Islam, Pakistan and Bangladesh were created for you. Go there. You stay here as a citizen of India, leave Hindus alone. And stop bringing in Bangladeshis. And stop this nonsense of 10 and 12 and 15 and 20 kids per person. We don't need that rubbish. The previous video, I'd mentioned the size of this halal certification. Somewhere between 2 and 2.5 lakh crores every year. Where does it go? Who collects this? Well, from what we hear, it's a Jamiat Ulema-e-Hind. And what do they do with all this money? Another thing. Who is one of the people who is invested in them? Interesting. Would you believe the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation? Do I need to say any more? Now you understand when I said this time and time again. The Congress party has been kicking Hindus, overtaxing them, making laws, especially draconian laws, to penalize Hindus in favor of Muslims. Why? I've said earlier, the Congress party is a Muslim league under a non-Muslim sounding name, and they're proving it. Remember the Shabano case? It didn't matter what the Supreme Court said. Rajiv Gandhi made a law that overshadowed that particular ruling. So that Muslim women got nothing, no alimony, no nothing, no maintenance. And then you talk about equality. I mean, the moment you have a minority who gets favored, where's equality? There is none. Now going back to this huge finance or financial source, this halal certification. What did the Jamiat Ulema Hind do? What are their activities? Well, love jihad, and especially wherever you find Muslims involved in things like bomb blasts, mayhem, disturbances, anything like this, they hire the most expensive lawyers in the land to defend them. You remember the Gujarat bomb blast? Long time ago, yes. 36 people were caught, tried, arrested, sentenced. But who was defending those people? Some of the highest, the most expensive lawyers in India. And who is financing that defense? Jamiat Ulema Hind. Jahangir Puri, one man gets arrested at 8 o'clock in the evening. By 9 a.m. next morning, the most expensive lawyers, I think Kapil Sibal was one of them, the most expensive lawyers in India, are at the Supreme Court by 9 a.m. the next morning, and the case is heard. How? And who financed them? Jamiat Ulema-e-Hind. Which means, in effect, when you take this in complement with the Waqf Act 1995, this is already an Islamic country. And if you think I'm joking, look it up. Fortunately, things are being done. Action is being taken. Otherwise, for all practical purposes, India is now an Islamic nation. Because the Waqf Act 1995 gives all the land in this country to the Waqf Board, without them having to pay 1 paisa as compensation. It is handed over to them. And Jamiat Ulema-e-Hind collects so much money they don't know what to do with it. PFI, which is a banned organization, if you look carefully in Madhya Pradesh, about 15 or 20 districts, every district had a headquarters with a PFI going in for mass conversions. Why? Why can't Muslims leave us alone? Live in your own land, live in your own home, nobody minds. But leave the rest of us alone to our way of life. We like that. We don't need your threats, your inducements, or your bribery to convert us to your way of life. We're not interested in that. For heaven's sake, stop it. Now we see what a lot of these mosques and madrasas are doing. There's one that was raided by the police in Bijnor. They had found a huge cache of knives, swords, both country-made and real, modern guns, including assault rifles, AK-47s, and a machine gun, which was capable of firing 8,000 rounds a minute. What were they preparing for? How many such mosques or madrasas are there in this country? Are they aiming for a civil war? Or are they just aiming to take over this country? A la Iran. Anybody who doesn't convert, kill him. Is that what your aim is? Please tell us what the hell is going on. This is not funny anymore. And as for you, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, and your Congress party, and your SPs and TMCs and your DMKs, who seem to be so enamored of Islam that you have no time for the majority of people who are paying for all this in the form of taxes. Most Muslims don't pay any taxes. Most Muslims don't even believe in Indian law unless it suits them. For instance, they keep saying Sharia law, Sharia law. Well, if you want Sharia law, if a Muslim is found stealing, they cut his hand off. But you don't want that. Then you want the IPC. A Hindu has no choice. He comes under IPC. But Islamic people, as I say, they don't believe in Indian law. If they don't, what are they doing here? Such people are not even Islamic, because the Quran specifically says, respect, obey, and live within the tenets of the law of the land in which you reside. And just briefly back to halal certification. Why is it being done by a non-governmental organization? Who gave them permission to do this? And well, let's be honest, it is extortion of money from the population of India. Nothing else. Or you can call it a jizya tax or a non-Muslim tax. Who gave them the right to tax the people of India? This is something that should have been done by either the ISI, and I don't mean the Pakistani one, I mean Indian Standards Institute, or something like AGMARC, or any of these other such governmental organizations. Not by a private organization, Muslim or Hindu or anybody else. It is a huge source of income. You don't need to increase taxes. This alone will give you an extra 5% of our total national budget. It's not a small amount, it's not a joke. So why is a private organization doing it and spreading so much terror and defending terrorists and so on? And the government is not even, totally clueless about this. Why? How have they managed to keep it so secret? And when somebody says, the minorities are under threat. Damn it, it's not the minority, it's the majority that's under threat. Being taken over and massacred by these monsters. Now it's about time we grew up and woke up. Come on, India. Rip Van Winkle should wake up now, before it's too late. We've gone a long way towards development. Let's not let idiots ruin it. Please understand this, that this halal certification, if a company gives them 1 crore, they will extract 50 to 80 crores from the population. How? Very simple. They either raise prices per unit, or in each unit you reduce the quantity drastically. I've mentioned this before. A pack of Lay's potato chips, for instance. 5 or 6 years ago, a 20 rupee pack contained 88 grams. 3 years ago, that same pack was now 20 rupees still, but 50 grams of chips in there. Does that answer your question? Rampant inflation. I mean, at 50 grams for 20 rupees, you are paying something like, what, almost 400 rupees per kilo of potatoes. Does that make sense? It doesn't to me. Think carefully. Such an organization should never exist. This should be done by the government of India, not by any organization, Muslim, Christian, Hindu, or anybody else for that matter. Wake up, Modi ji. Please wakey wakey. Get your act together. You've had a shock in the elections. Pull your socks up, shake your head a little, and get down to work. We need it now. Well, thank you folks. I hope I'm beginning to get this message across. There are lots of things that the government needs to do, and the opposition, especially Mr. Rahul Gandhi. He's not fit to be a member of parliament, especially once he signed that agreement with the people of China, or the Communist Party of China. He now owes allegiance to them. There is an acknowledgement from there. And as per the Constitution, he has no right to be a member of parliament, either house. Thank you folks. Please, I hope you like this one. Spread this around. Send it to your other groups, your relatives, your friends. Ask them to send it over. Send it even further. Because the more of us who understand the beginnings of what the Constitution says and what the Congress Party and the others have been doing, I think it's about time we grew up a little and woke up. The sleeping giant of India has woken up. How about us Indians? Let's wake up too. Ciao folks, see you.